You're watching a 360-degree panoramic video. Using your touchscreen, mouse, or keyboard, look left, look right, look up, look down, or turn around. If you want to get a better view of any moment in the video, pause it and explore your surroundings. This video may not display correctly in older viewers or browsers. Enjoy the video.
You go try a door and tell us. Oh, I see someone going back there.
Yeah, me too. I think it's the back. That's where most of the space is. Evening.
Good evening. How are you?
Pretty good.
You know, Mary Whispers, Judy Sheffield. Judy Sheffield, Connie Pettis, Jeffrey Roberts. Mary
I'll get this out of the way after. I thought better standing up.
Let them look.
Ready?
Good evening. My name is Jason Parrott. I'm with Tri-States Public Radio. I was asked to serve as a moderator tonight for the, I guess we're called the town hall meeting that Optimae is holding here. It's going to be a pretty basic and simple approach to this. Bill Dodds is the president of Optimae. He's going to start off with a statement about the company, explaining kind of what they do, also kind of explaining why they decided to hold this meeting tonight. And then at that point, where they are willing to accept questions from the audience. There's no microphone, so if you can't hear, I'm going to recommend moving up a little bit. And once the questions begin, the only thing that they ask and everything is to just be civil with your questions, just be respectful of everybody else, and they will answer questions throughout the night. They handed me some questions that were submitted ahead of time by a resident, so if there's a lull in questions, I can go to some of these. But if you guys have actual questions during the discussion, just feel free to keep them going. What I'll kind of do is just hang out over here and point in the general direction of if somebody just raises their hand. If you can just raise your hand, I'll point at you. That way we don't have a bunch of people yelling out questions at the same time. And that's about it with that. They'll go ahead.
Thanks. Well, thank you all for coming tonight. We're happy to host this town hall, or whatever you want to call it, church hall. We decided after some discussions with the city, when folks showed up to a city council meeting with some concerns about a new site that we're planning on opening in town, that it would be best just to meet with whoever the interested parties were. We'd like about 15 minutes to tell you a little bit about us and what our values are and how we do things. We wanted to avoid trying to market you, so please don't think we're doing that, but we did want to communicate a little bit. And that may answer some of your questions. And then I'll sit down and turn over to you guys and the panel up here. We'll take down, put on a parking lot, and get back to you with the specific answer if you stump the band. So let me just tell you who's here with me. Angie Torres, who's our regional director. Sheena Foreman, who's our director of communications. Susan Martin, who's our chief operating officer for services. James Mays, GYM Mays, who's our COO for Business Services, and Cheryl Gill, who's our COO for Central Iowa Services. So the four of us are kind of a senior management operations team. Sheena's a department head, and Angie is responsible for all the services in this region. So with that, let me just kind of give you an overview. So Optimae. We are a private employee-owned corporation. About 50 of our senior managers and mid-level leaders own stock in Optimae. So we're not as employee-owned as Hy-Vee, but we're not a big mega corporation. We provide services in somewhere around a little over a third of the counties in the state of Iowa, mostly in southeast Iowa, central Iowa, south central Iowa, and eastern Iowa. So all the way from Cedar Rapids to Muscatine to here, over to Osceola and up to Des Moines and Ames and that region. So geographically about a third of the state. We have about 1,500 employees. We provide services to over 5,000 individuals every year. We provide a wide range of services to those folks. We provide services, community services to individuals who have disabilities, that is serious mental illness, intellectual disabilities, brain injuries. We also provide home health services to that population, as well as to the regular frail elderly home health population. We provide behavioral health services, again, to the individuals that we serve who have disabilities, and also just counseling and medication management to folks who need that service in their community. We also run a very small number of residential programs, including one of the state's only 3 nursing facilities for persons with mental illness. So to kind of give you an idea of the scope of the services in terms of what we do and where we do it. As I mentioned to you, we are employee-owned. And it's important for us to we communicate this to our employees, we communicate this to the communities that we serve when we meet with officials. We're a bit of a different kind of company. So we're not publicly traded, so it's not the goal of our board of directors to maximize our profit. It is the goal of our board of directors and our stockholders to first do good, and that means doing the right thing for and by our customers and our employees and the communities that we provide services in. All 3 of those are equally important to us. Secondly, we like to have fun, and that means structuring the workplace so that even in a difficult environment, our employees can enjoy their work, look forward to coming to work, feel fulfilled by their work, and also we do joke around a lot. So that we hope differentiates itself a bit. And what we say is, instead of trying to maximize profits for stockholders, if we do good and we have fun and we do it efficiently and effectively enough, we'll make enough money for what we need to do. And you can talk to any one of our employees. I give this speech to, I don't know, 1,500 people in the last year. I mean, we need that sincerely. So when we come to your community and provide services, we are not here to suck money out of the community. We are here to provide services to the people in your community that need it, and hopefully to give something back to the citizens of the community. And any time that doesn't happen, we want to know about it because we want to correct it. A little bit about our values, although you'll probably hear other people talk about them tonight. We live very strongly by our values. We talk about them daily. We also talk about our brand promise, which is to be at the side and on the side of our customers and our employees and our communities. And you'll hear many difficult conversations every day around our company where at some point somebody will say, we can't do that because we wouldn't be on their side. We can't treat that employee that way because we wouldn't be at their side. We take those very seriously. So when you receive services from Optimae, you're taken care of as if you were our family. Because when we rebranded ourselves about 7 years ago, We picked the name Optimae, which is Latin for as best one can. And the sort of tagline that goes along with that as we develop the brand is, we want to provide services that we would be proud to provide to our family members should they need them. And quite frankly, in many cases they do. So that's a little overview of what Optimae is, what Optimae does, how we approach it. Now let me talk just a little bit about this particular site. So there's been a little bit of confusion and things change fairly rapidly in the policy world. At some point in time, some people were saying this was a group home. Okay, so I got to tell you, you're woefully old-fashioned if you're still using the term group home. So group homes are a thing of the past. There's various things that have replaced it. But in this case, this is a site. The site itself is not licensed. It's a single-family rental, so it has to meet the rental codes of whatever jurisdiction they're in. We have about, do you recall how many we have around? A couple hundred, 250 of these sites around various communities. So they all have to meet the rental codes of the communities they're in for single-family rental, so they're inspected by the city. And then our services that we provide to individuals who reside in those sites are accredited by the state. So the house itself is not accredited as a healthcare facility. The services that we provide are accredited as home and community-based services. So that's a development that's happened over the past 20 years fairly slowly, and the idea behind that is to integrate individuals with disabilities fully into the community so that they're not living in group homes, they're not living in residential care facilities, they're living in neighborhoods where other families live. One of the things that we do, because we work with people, a fair number of people who have fairly significant disabilities, is we find that a lot of them have barriers to tenancy. Probably about 3/4 of the people that we work with rent their own apartment, own their own home, whatever. But about 1/4 of them have had trouble doing that. First of all, they're fairly chronically poor because they've been on disability for a long time. Secondly, they've probably had some bad experiences as tenants. So many landlords won't rent safe, affordable housing to them. So we step in to kind of support their tenancy. We find landlords who are willing to work with us, and we rent the property and then turn around and sublease it to our customers. We don't make money on that sublease. In fact, we usually lose a little bit of money on that sublease. But that way, they're able to live in a safe environment, have a stable home, and eventually, hopefully, learn how to be better tenants so that someday they can move out and rent an apartment from somebody. So that's kind of the nature of this living environment. A couple of questions, and we'll touch on these a lot later. A couple of general questions about our services. So services, were a lot of questions about who lives where, what level of service do they get, so on and so forth. Well, just a couple of general background pieces. So staffing is always based on the needs of the customer. Each customer has an interdisciplinary team that consists of staff from Optimae and other community staff from their IHH worker or a case manager. And so that team always decides what services the individual should receive. And so different people receive different levels of services over time. Some of them go up, some of them go down. We can talk about some of the details of that. And then the other kind of big service-related question was, our service is 24-hour. Well, what I can say is 24-hour services are available to anyone that we provide services to. Not all people we provide services to receive 24-hour services on a regular basis. Some do, some don't. Some live in houses where they don't receive 24-hour services per se, but there is an overnight staff there. Some live in houses where there are no overnight staff, but they always have access to an on-call person who can call in someone to physically come there if they need to. So a couple of the big service questions you asked, there's kind of an overview. So at this point, I've accomplished what I wanted to. I probably haven't answered very many of your questions, and we've certainly got a long list, But just based on what I said, if you have questions about that, or just questions that you walked in the door with, I think the first thing we'd like to do is just address those. And then, if after that, after we're done, we'll hang around for a while. So if there's questions you'd like to ask us that you don't want to stand up in the middle of the crowd and ask, we're good with that too.
Yeah, Dave, you got your hand up first. Go ahead.
My name is Dave Barrett. Sally and I live at 1107 Grand Avenue. The neighborhood gossip is that you have purchased the home, or the landlord who you're going to rent from has purchased the home. And my question is that true? And then if it is, what is your anticipated start date for having residents at the home?
Sure. So I'll ask Angie to start with has it been purchased, because she would know that.
Yes. Yes, the house has been purchased. And the closing date, from what I understand, will be close to the middle of June. And as soon as the house is ready for someone to move into, we will be moving into it.
So
Does that answer your question?
Probably sometime in August. If
Possibly even July. There's
Okay.
not a lot that has to be done there.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm Kathy Roberts from Montrose, but I'm a payee for Lee County, and have great respect for the people that work in the mental health industry here. You have a lot of really good, hardworking employees. Of course, like any job, you got some lemons.
Sure.
And I think that a lot of the turmoil about this came because we've all been horrified by the closing of MHI and the lack of psychiatrists and what this is doing in the state of Iowa. And there's not much we can do about that except vote differently and lobby like hell. But I think that's where a lot of the fear comes in. And I know some of my clients I'd love to have as neighbors, and some not so much. But if you have good staff that are trained and paid well, so they like to come to work, goodness of your heart doesn't pay the bills. But if you take care of your staff, they will take care of your people. And I think I've met some really wonderful staff. And years ago, my son went to get a job between college years at one of the companies that's no longer in business. His training consisted of reading, like for 2 hours at a time, the narratives of the clients. And then he was put in a house. It's like, what in the world? That's not training. So I think, maybe you could address what you do for that.
I can address that if you'd
Yeah,
like
go
me
right
to.
ahead.
So in the region here, Optimae really, really prides themselves on training. And we are working on a daily basis to upgrade our training, our modules, anything that we can do to get the information to staff that we need to get to them. And at this time, when a staff person begins, they have several weeks of modules that they go through of different trainings. They go full days, they go part days, they go full days, then they go out and they meet people, and then they come back in their training. And their training is very extensive, and it goes on for as long as they're employed with Optimae. We really pride ourselves on really working on the training. We train on diagnosis. We have our mental health people who work in the mental health part of our programs do trainings on diagnosis and how to work with individuals with specific diagnoses. And we have home health, where home health is very, very involved with our programs. And they're in the homes and they're helping with the medications. They're helping staff to notice things if somebody has seizures. Sometimes the home health nurses are in there on a daily basis, sometimes on a weekly basis. They're continually educating the staff on how to get the education that they need to get, which is one of our core values, is education.
And not only do we train them on the broad brush, we also do very specific customer service training, which doesn't mean you just sit down and read the chart. It means you really go into this person's history, and these are their symptoms. And when they have symptoms, this is the way they would like to be supported during that period of time. And then we come back around and check in with our customers and say, how is that going with those staff members? So I appreciate the question. It is, training is always something that we strive to continue to make better.
Go over here, then we'll go to here.
My name's Steve Bryant. I'm blessed to have 2 disabled children of my own. They both will be graduating from school next year. And for about 15 years ago, my father got involved with working for Bridgeway organization just so that he could make sure that people like them were being taken care of properly. And he's been in the field for 15 years. My wife just started in February for Optimae, and she has had constant training to make sure that these people are being watched, cared for, and taken care of properly. It's a wonderful organization. But on a side note, I just want to say, these people didn't choose to be born like this, and it's our job as a community to take care of them. And not to say, oh, I'm worried about them living next to me because they might, be loud. They might be. These people didn't choose to be born like this. And when I'm dead and gone, I want to know that my town is taking care of my children and not turning their backs on them. Amen.
I'm Phil Carapresso. 2 questions. One, what are the criteria or requirements to be employed as a caregiver? And 2, where are the residents coming from? Are the homes exclusively for Keokuk, exclusively for Lee County, or could these customers, clients, become from longer distance away?
Yeah, sure. So many of our site homes, the staff, we focus a lot. Absolutely. I'm really good at being loud, so we got this covered. Many of our site homes staff, when they do have those 24-hour shifts, we focus on training because the requirement to be able to get a job as a direct service professional is a high school diploma or a GED. That's that entry and background checks. Yes, thank you. And we do very extensive background checks on everybody that comes to work at Optimae to make sure that that background is clear. So that's that first question.
And to just kind of dovetail on that, that is the minimal requirement, but also we have people that have 4-year degrees plus that are working as direct care professionals. So it depends on who is available in the community, who's interested in the opportunity that we have to offer that we think would be a good match for us as well.
And
Optimae then does not hold itself to a higher standard. You don't require a college degree or expertise in healthcare or someone who has experience in mental illness. They need to have a GED or a driver's license. And I take that from your website.
Right. So, but one of the things, sir, that we believe in, and the folks that are here from Optimae have heard me say this probably a million times over, the most important people at Optimae are our DSPs, because they are living our mission with the people we're here to support. So yes, we do take time to train them, and we do believe in them, and we do invest in them because they are the most important people at Optimae.
They're actually the most important people to our country, the direct service professionals in all areas of healthcare, not only mental health, but all areas of healthcare. They're 80% of our employees. They're people taking care of us, and they're where the rubber meets the road.
Right. Which is what we say every time we meet with them. At the end of every meeting, we say, if you take nothing from this meeting, please know that we understand that you are where the rubber meets the road. You are the people who do the work. And there's plenty of research out there that indicates that specific training in providing community-based services for persons with disabilities is quite adequately provided by companies if they put their mind to it. And that's what keeps employees engaged. We take this very seriously because we know that's how we're going to get and keep good employees. And the fact that somebody has a college degree in history does not make them a better employee for us.
Jason,
Which is one of the college degrees I have.
Okay,
and
yeah,
he had
maybe we'll do that. If you're gonna talk, go ahead and stand up to try to see if you
Sure.
can, with no microphone to try to project. And there was a second part of the
right,
question.
there was a second part.
The second part was the origin of the people who were living in the homes in Keokuk.
So I'm gonna
We're
let-
talking about taking care of our community.
I think what you had also asked is there homes in other areas? Did you ask that? Okay,
No,
just about this
just
one.
yours.
Okay, so we get referrals from everywhere. They come from, I have 2 people in the back that are on my assessment team, and we go and do assessments from everywhere around Iowa. So they could come from anywhere.
So not necessarily then focused on Keokuk or Lee County.
Not necessarily focused on that, but some of the individuals who have already been living here and being served in other areas are from Keokuk.
They will be in the home.
They
They'll
will be
returned here.
in certain homes. I can't say that they'll be in that one, but yes.
Do you strive to do that?
So,
I didn't
sure,
hear you,
so,
I'm sorry.
yeah,
Do
can
you
I?
strive to do that?
Yes,
Do you strive to
so,
return
yes, the
someone in their
idea
home?
behind,
Absolutely.
is that we wanna allow people to live in the communities of their choice. Now, in most cases, that's the community where they're from, and that's the community they would prefer to live in, so that's the community we would prefer to live in. However, sometimes someone says, you know, I wanna get away from there. I've got bad friends, bad influences, I need a fresh start. We'll help people do that too. So, but generally speaking, consumer choice drives almost everything that we do, and most people choose to live where their friends and relatives and family are. So certainly I would expect, and I don't know how many sites we're gonna end up with here in Keokuk, but I would expect that 3/4 of the people to be either people who grew up here or people who have lived here previous to coming into service with us.
All right, we've got one here, then we're gonna go to one back there.
I recently discovered that NBC listed Keokuk as the poorest city in Iowa and the 14th poorest city in all the United States of America. So my question is an economic question. How many jobs do you anticipate this to bring into Keokuk, and how much influx of cash or capital would it be bringing in to the businesses of Keokuk? In other words, helping Keokuk's economy.
How many people so at the new sites that we're opening, how many people will we be employing?
We went from employing about 12, I believe, I don't have the exact numbers, I'm sorry, but I'm real close, about 12 DSPs in Keokuk, and we are up to about 55, so that's quite a change, not even in a year. We would hope that businesses would be able to, you know, flourish from that, because
we don't have to make money. All we have to do is break even. And then we use those businesses to provide job training and support to customers that we serve otherwise, and occasionally someone that another provider serves. And with the hope, one of 2 hopes. One, that this will provide them with the experience and the background to go get a job in a community business, because they aren't working for some kind of program, they're working for Brick Street Bakery, they're working for Plain Talk Books and Coffee, they're working for Raccoon Forks Farm. It's a real business that they can put on their resume. And then if they're an individual that really, their level of disability is such that that's just not in the cards for them, they can have long-term part-time employment in those businesses. And we've successfully made baristas out of some people with fairly significant levels of disability, and then they have a valued role in the community. So now they're no longer a mental patient. They identify themselves as a barista, or a waiter, or a farmer, which is part of what we're trying to do, is to help people turn their mindset around into, I'm not a broken person, I'm a person who needs some help. So we would hope, I've been driving around your town, and sometimes I scare my partners, but I would hope within the next, say, 18 months or so, that we would be able to open one of those micro businesses here in Keokuk, which would further economic development. It would fill a storefront, it would put some people to work, it would provide another good or service to the citizens of the county and the town. So hopefully we'll be able to do that in the next 18 months.
there's a lot of very unique buildings here. Seriously, we're looking at a lot of them, so.
you have a question?
I have a white beard, therefore I have support. I'm not hearing, and I came for information. I'm wondering if we can reorganize the room so that we can hear back here. Affect some of the activity in your hometown right now. Is there a way we can reorganize? I'm a 5th grade teacher, and I can do it, but.
Yeah, that's way back, long time ago when I was a junior high principal.
If you don't need a table, you can move your chairs.
Come on up. Come on up.
Mark, there's chairs over here.
Yeah,
Bring your chairs up here if you'd like.
Yeah, if you want to take a bit and you can't hear, feel free to, there's chairs all up here, you can move closer.
I wish we were allowed to board microphones.
Thank you. Come on up. Come on up, please.
We're really nice. We don't bite. We don't, you know, it's okay.
And we'll stand up when we talk.
That's right, we did.
All right, we'll go right here, as we're doing a little rearranging, we'll go right here to greet you.
I'll try to talk loud. My name's Ryan Sage. I have a daughter that's got some pretty significant impairments, and I've been talking with a number of people on Grand, and we're trying to calm this thing down and make it reasonable. I'm kind of tying together a couple of questions over here. One of the questions, do you guys, is my assumption, and I could be wrong, but I understand that it's not necessarily a high-paying job, and that you're not going to get a ton of people with 6-year degrees or something doing this kind of casework. But it would be my assumption that they would be overseen by somebody with a high-level education. And one of the things with my daughter is if we're going to get things in place for her through the state, they have to be statistically supported, you know, interventions in things like the behavior intervention plan, ABA, and whatnot. And number one, is that what you guys are using? And number two, is there some accountability? Is there somebody that says that yes, because in the schools and in the interventions that we're using currently, there is some oversight. They're saying that this has to fulfill these requirements and that the school is fulfilling these requirements. Is there some oversight for you guys saying that that is what's taking place here?
Take the first one. Okay, so the first question is, would we have affiliations with people and see this as a cheap place to house people and so on and so forth? And the unequivocal answer to that is absolutely not. So I've avoided giving I'm a 5th generation Iowan speech up to this point, but I think I will. We've been moving up the River Valley ever since. Two of my sons work for the company, and they're 6th generation Iowans. We take serving our communities, each and every one of them, very seriously. We don't bring people in from out of state or anything like that.
So I'll take his other question, and that is there a plan? Is there somebody overseeing those services? And yes, there is. So we have a couple of different levels of individuals that help support our site homes. So we have DSPs that work in the site home, then they have a team lead that is in and out of that home every day, most days of the week. Then we have a service coordinator, and that service coordinator is your degreed level person. And that person sits down with our customer, with their family, with their case manager, their IHH worker. Oftentimes someone from an MCO has some input into that as well, which is our Medicaid partners, to develop a plan of what does this particular person need and how can we provide that to them in the best possible way. And yes, we do a lot of evidence-based practices. Now, those practices are very much individualized. An assessment is done with that interdisciplinary team with each customer. So it's individualized for that customer. And then that service coordinator is the one that makes sure that we are working on the goals and the interventions that are in that plan. So yes, absolutely, there is somebody that oversees all of that. And Optimae has to be accountable to the state of Iowa and to our Medicaid partners, the MCOs, to make sure that yes, indeed, this is what we're doing. Does that help answer your question?
Yeah.
I feel like I'm yelling at you. I just want to make sure people in the back can hear.
There's also another level.
Sir, you can stand up quite a few questions and comments, but right now, this gentleman over here has requested to go through these questions, and I'm all in favor of that. I don't have access to a computer, and I can't go on Facebook to read them, and I don't count on our paper to print a whole sheet out for the public to see all these questions, and no one will give answers. I'd like to do it here. It's a town hall meeting. I highly recommend that the gentleman.
I'd like to know the origin of the question before we make that decision.
I have a question before.
I guess Bill,
Well, this gentleman's had his hand up for quite a while.
Sir, I understand the home was purchased by Doug Ziegler, is that correct?
Yes.
And is Optimae leasing the property from Doug Ziegler?
Yes.
Yes.
So the people that are living there are not involved in the lease process?
They have a sublease with us. We lease individually to each of them. So we have a master lease for the property. We pay Mr. Ziegler a monthly fee and agree to pay the utilities. And then we have a lease, we have a service agreement with each of our customers, but we also have a lease, which has been approved by God, King, and Country. And we charge each of the individuals who live there an amount equal to 1/5 or 1/4 or 1/3, however many people are living in the house, the HUD fair market rent for that property. So it's a fairly economical rent for them. And then they each pay 1/3, 1/4, or 1/5 of the utilities, which are in our name because many of them can't get it in their name. So we're between the owner of the property, who's our landlord, and the customers we are the landlord too.
Last question.
Yes.
I appreciate the answer.
Yeah.
Bridgeway, according to Beacon, if you look up the properties, paid no property taxes.
Yeah, no, our landlord will be paying property taxes, and we own a very small number of houses ourselves around the state that we had to buy because we couldn't find an individual in a community that was willing to be our landlord, and we pay property taxes on those as well. Yes.
And I can also tell you, because Doug couldn't be here tonight, he also bought our new office, which everybody is welcome to our open house tomorrow from 12 to 2 at 208 Bank Street. And there's a lot of taxes that's paid there. Just thought I'd let you know that. So.
Make a statement that you support the community.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So let's go. Shall we go with the list?
Yeah, we were thinking we could help you go through those.
Did you want to say something?
On that list that she's referring to, they were concerned about mentally ill people moving into the house, contrast to people that are disabled, that are not highly functioning, and this mentally ill. It's different things. I would ask, does anybody know what mentally illness is? I have allergies. Incompetence, what does it mean, be mentally ill? Does you know if you ask anybody, nobody has to raise their hands, how many people have depression? Do you know that's a mental illness? How about anxiety? I mean, you might be living with somebody who has anxiety by you. So they were so worried about mentally ill people moving in and putting people in boxes instead of understanding what things were. And I think that's why the community has so much fits, because they don't take time to understand what these things are. Okay? And yes. And American Disability Act.
Okay, I'm gonna, in respect to the gentleman who's got the list of questions, I would like to.
And another thing of the questions was, as far as getting petition up, throw it out, that's not legal. Fair Housing Act of 1988 states that you can move in a house like that.
Sure,
because
no.
that is their home, it's not a company, it's their home, and plus, how many people in Keokuk maybe have 5 or 6 people living in a house together that are not related?
Right, now when we met with.
So we need to know what the different things are.
Good point. So when we met with the city, it was clearly established that the Fair Housing Act and the Americans with Disabilities Act absolutely allow us for this type of arrangement.
Yes.
And
So mandated from our federal government as well. So we support and encourage, and Optimae does what we call something like positive behavioral supports, which means we look at each individual and we look at their environment and what do we need to do to support them to make the very best decisions that they can possibly make to be the healthiest person in our community. And that's what we do.
Now, institution that they came from, are they required to take medication?
How do you know they came from?
Because Mount Pleasant is closed and other places. So the odds are most of these people that did not come from an institution. They may have been homeless, they may have been living with family, they may have been living with some other service provider. I mean, there are virtually no institutions for people to come from anymore. So odds are that they were not under any kind of supervision for their medications or anything else before they came to us. And it is true that we cannot, in most cases, require anyone to take medication. Now there is a small group that sometimes that sometimes can be forced, and those are people who are on an outpatient commitment. And I mean, you can't force them to take their medication, but you can call the commitment judge and have their outpatient status revoked if they violate one of the terms of that outpatient commitment. So I don't know that any of the folks that we are serving in Keokuk are on that status. It doesn't happen that often anymore, but it is a possibility. But our goal would be to work with the individual's team to see to it that we took the proper steps to help them understand the reasons why they would want to take their medication, to help them keep track of their medication, and to see to it that they take their medication. Because we're in agreement with you all that in 99% of the cases, they are going to fare better if they take their medication. And there was part of that question was, what kind of medication do they take? They take psychotropic medications to help them control their hallucinations and delusions. Some of them take anti-anxiety medication. Some of them take medication for depression. And then they take a wide variety of medications for just the ills that you and I have, everything from high cholesterol to high blood pressure to COPD to sleep apnea, which are common illnesses among this particular group of people. So they're taking a wide range of medications. Those medications have a lot of interactions. That's one of the reasons we developed the home health program to help better serve those individuals who have multiple kinds of medications.
And what we found is that our customers are much more successful with supports in place in using their medications, learning about their medications. And if they're not taking their medications and we do see symptoms occurring, that's what we're there for. We address those concerns right away. If they are living in, under a bridge or wherever, those concerns aren't going to likely be addressed. And that is truly when people do have more problems.
And we communicate with their physician when they if they refuse their medications, we start letting their physician know right away so we can get them back in or manage that in another way.
Or their therapist.
Right. Well, and in the case of here in Keokuk, I mean, we will be the prescriber for many of them. So it's one of our team members that we're communicating with when the report is, because we do our own interdisciplinary teams within our staff. So, I mean, that prescriber is going to get the report that so-and-so isn't taking their such and such. And we're going to have a discussion about what to do about it. So.
And we've had community help us. We have customers who live not inside homes, but live in the community where the police officers know that we serve these individuals, and if they're noticing that something's going on with an individual, they'll give us a call and they'll say, you need to check in on this person, something's not right. So, that's a big thing that we appreciate from the community and the hospitals and neighbors and...
Well, and obviously people do from time to time decompensate for all kinds of reasons, some because of things that they do or don't do, and some just because of the biology. And that's part of what we're there for, to intervene, to get a commitment order if necessary, try to convince them to go to the hospital or see their prescriber. So that's part of the service that we're providing. And I guarantee you got plenty of folks living in 4 and 5 and 6 persons to an apartment in your community that nobody's doing that for.
Yeah.
And that's just a fact. I mean, that's not Keokuk, that's everybody. Yeah. Yes.
Having mental disability doesn't by default negate your rights. You still have the rights that everybody else. You can't force somebody. That would be criminal. If we took somebody just because they had a mental disability, said that now we can force you to do whatever you want to do,
Can we keep moving through these,
we're just going to stay standing up.
Yeah.
We're not trying to leap over the table at you. We're just...
Yeah, we did already. The next question says, if you accept someone from outside of Keokuk, where are they coming from, and were they previously inside homes, which we've answered, so we're going to go to the next one. If a resident assaults a staff member, what is the protocol? Can a staff member file assault charges? Does that occur? Law enforcement has confirmed that staff report they will be fired if they do so.
So let me take the first crack at this.
That'd be
one.
fine.
So, like many things that happen in our services, that's a highly individualized answer. There is no global answer to that. The answer is it depends. It depends on whether the assault was a chest bump or someone going after someone with a knife. It depends on whether we know the individual has a history of this kind of thing and it's something we need to be watching for, and we already have a plan in place to work on it, or if it's a new behavior from somebody that's just come out of the blue. So our first step will be to treat it for just what it is. It's a symptom of their psychiatric illness, and look at what the antecedents to the behavior were, what might have caused the behavior or triggered the behavior that we can change. And if we can't find something that we're sufficiently safe with, then we'll probably have that person committed or let the staff file a charge and let them go to jail. That's always our last choice, but it does happen sometimes. Hopefully, most of the staff that we hire and train know that there is some element of risk to this job, that there may be some loud voices and some pushing around happen from time to time. We train people on how best to deal with those situations and de-escalate them. So if it's at the lower half of this scale, we're probably going to work with that staff to give them some time off, to help them understand in sort of a cool moment what happened to trigger that person to do that thing. But if it's just really egregious out here on the other end, we're not going to stop one of our staff people from exercising their rights.
Nobody has ever been fired for pressing charges in my area. I mean, I can tell you that.
Can I add something to that? My wife worked in a nursing home before she worked for you guys. She came home with more bruises from there than she's never had a sick friends that worked for you guys. She's safer with you guys than she ever was there.
Thank you.
I have two relatives that work for you guys, and you guys give them excellent training, and they review your homes.
Thank you.
We appreciate that. We appreciate that.
What behaviors warrant removal from a site home, and how many offenses before the individual is removed? That's, yeah.
So again,
I'll let
yeah, you case by case, but go ahead.
So our care is very much individualized. So it depends on the individual. It depends on what has happened. We believe at your side, on your side. We believe in that. People are in service because they need that support. They're in service because they do have symptoms and sometimes do things that later they wish they wouldn't have done. So it is definitely an assessment that we do within Optimae, and we include the individual's family, their case manager, their care coordinator, in deciding is there something we can do different to make sure this doesn't happen again. And in the unfortunate situations, and it is unfortunate that we have to discharge, it's an individual decision.
And quite frankly, we view that as a failure on our part rather than a failure on the part of the individual, because that means we just weren't good enough to meet that person's needs. No, it is. I mean, our goal is to meet everybody's needs. I mean, we understand that's not achievable, but that doesn't stop it from being our goal.
We work
Because
very
there's
hard
nowhere else
to.
for that person to go.
Yeah.
Right.
They're gonna fail.
I mean, we are, you say where do they come from the institution? There's no institution to come from, and there's no institution to go to.
Right.
If you leave
nowhere
our,
else to go.
especially the number of people with fairly significant levels of disability that we work with, if they leave our service, the odds are they're going to end up under the bridge sooner or later.
Thank you, Governor Branstad.
I won't make any
We're
claims.
going to move on.
Let's go ahead.
We can have it aside
If you
sometime.
have a question about a question, you can do that, but if you have a comment,
I'm
let's
sorry.
try to keep everything
That's okay.
until, let them
Passion.
get through their questions so that we can keep everybody going.
What behaviors, events require critical incident reporting, and do you report it to the state?
Yes. The critical incidents are mandated by the state of Iowa and Iowa code. It's Iowa law that we report a critical incident on very specific things. And those critical incidents go to the Medicaid managed care organization, which then goes on to the state. We used to send them directly to the state. So it's very much mandated for what we have to do a critical incident for. If the police are called, if there's a medication error, if someone gets hurt, if one of our customers hurts somebody else, those things are all part of what we have to report to the state. They're reported and they are tracked. We track them internally. We look for trends so that we can see if there's a site home that's struggling more or a community that's struggling more, and we'll come in and provide support to that community and try to reduce that number of critical incidents.
Also, just, I mean, since this is, so there's state law, but then that produces administrative rules to govern it, this changes from time to time. So we break it all the time because people don't always want to move. It's their home. We can ask them to move, but we would try to respect their rights to stay where they were if that was important to them. So there's a lot of things that go into play as to who lives in an individual site, what their level of funding is, how long they stay there. We just can't answer the question in a black and white manner.
It's really, truly a case-by-case basis, because as you know, people's symptoms change as well. So a person who's doing extremely well for 6 months may be triggered by a situational event in their life and escalate to the point where they have to go to the hospital. Well, then the hospital will release them and say they're at the highest level of need right now. So we will change the staffing pattern to meet the needs of the individuals in that particular site.
So you have multi-tiered individuals in one home?
Yes.
Sometimes?
All
Yes.
the time.
Well, yeah, all the time, but some.
Their needs change.
Yeah, because we change people's level of support depending on their needs. So as they get better, their tier level will come down.
And their funding level would come down, and there'd be their services would focus more on rehabilitation and less on supervision and support.
I think that answers that.
Do you confirm that this is the population that will be in the site home? And I think we just talked about that. And okay, so that answered that question, I believe, correct? Okay. Will the site home always be used for this population? If they say that the site home will only be used for individuals with a developmental disability, you know, again, we let people, as much as we can, pick their roommates. You could have somebody with an intellectual disability living with somebody with a mental illness. They don't always live together, but sometimes they might. This home could be used to serve either of those populations. More than likely will be.
Well, and a fairly significant subset of individuals with intellectual disabilities also have a serious mental illness.
Right.
So it's probably not likely that someone would be living in this particular home location that had an intellectual disability only, but it's quite probable that there'll be some people there who also have an intellectual disability.
And some of that depends upon what the community needs. I mean, these are your folks that we're taking care of, so that's a big factor.
How many site homes in Keokuk will have the U8, U9 designations, and where will they be located? I can't tell you that. We hold ourselves to very high confidentiality and HIPAA standards, and we're not going to let people know where customers live. If they choose to let you know which house they live in, that's up to them.
Well, and again, those funding levels are not static.
Right.
That's not the way.
Yep.
That's not the way we engage people in where to live.
No.
For the most part.
It's not like this is a U9 home and will only ever be a U9 home. That's not the way it works. It's about the individuals that live in the home and what services they need.
Because again, you may come out of the hospital with a very high level of need. Our job is to try to work with you and help you stabilize so that your level of need goes down. And so that it's a fluid kind of situation. Just like all of us. We have good days and bad days.
If a resident is designated as a U8 or U9 in a site home, how do you minimize the risk? What measures will be taken to ensure the safety of the residents, staff, and the neighborhood? What I can tell you again is that each individual customer has a plan. And the whole team, everybody who is on that team gets together, they come up with a plan on how can they be successful? What can we do to help them be successful? We have crisis plans for them, individualized crisis plans. What happens when they start to struggle? What are we going to do to help them? We have on-call staff. We have site team leaders, we have service coordinators, we have a lot of different individuals checking on people at all times and working their plans.
And not only do we have that, our organization takes managing individuals' risk very, very seriously. So if anybody anywhere in our company is struggling with a particular customer, their symptoms, or they don't know what else to do, they can dial in our risk management team, and we'll come and help support them and talk about, okay, well, have you tried this, or have you tried that, or let's come in and do an assessment of the home and figure out if there's something else that we could be doing differently. So not only is the local team has that crisis plan to function from, they also have experts that they can pull in from across their company to help develop a better plan.
So, and a general word about safety, if I might. And I used to have this number in my brain, and I've gotten too old, I don't have it exactly anymore. But persons with serious mental illness are multiple times more likely to be the victims of violence than they are to be the perpetrators of violence. And so that's just a scientifically proven fact.
It's not necessarily.
Yeah. Well,
Do I think that's it? Well, I'm a little.
Barb.
My name is Barb Whitman. I'm an associate regional director in county. I am on call 24/7. So I do want to say calls that come out of our area are not calls because of more mental health issues. It's more calls because of medical issues. So we don't, in our site, we don't have 6 sites currently. We have less than that. And I get all those calls anytime the police are called, or anytime somebody's going to the hospital. And I know those 221 calls are not all Optimae. So I just want to speak on, we don't have a lot of these issues that are being brought up in regards to customers being assaulted or violent. Again, it goes back to more of, they're having medical
And there's more homes here than just Optimae.
things like that.
It's more than just
I just
Optimae.
want to assure you that we are.
One of those there's 6 homes.
That's been a past problem.
Nobody thinks the word.
So sir, can I ask you,
It's been a past problem.
221 calls to where?
I mean, you had at your house, sir. How many calls?
No.
We want to keep this civil.
Yeah, I'll try to answer.
We want to keep
I'm
this
just,
civil.
I'm trying to, okay. I'm trying to find
Ma'am, can you allow them to, the
221 police calls
We have a police officer here
to
who's
where?
wanting to talk.
To our sites?
Sometimes I feel like I'm invisible. I'm law enforcement. Yeah, I'll field any questions you have about calls for service. I've been on 28 years responding to a lot of these calls, and I'm open to questions.
But I'd still like to get I would still like to get my question answered. Are you saying that there were 221 police calls to our sites and our customers?
I'm saying in Keokuk, the last from.
How do you know that there are sites and our customers?
Well, then that's a bogus number.
We've had problems
Yeah.
that were just up on
Yeah, and by the way, I do think, and I'll let the police speak for themselves, they're going to receive calls about these individuals, whether they're living with us, with some other provider, or underneath the bridge. And that's just a function, one of the functions of public safety, and I'm sure this gentleman will tell you that.
I have a question for the officer. Have you found that statistics-wise that you've had personally, you get more calls to people that aren't being assisted and taken care of by a group like this that are living with their parents, say, or living on their own? Or would you, as a neighbor, to feel safer with one of them living with their parents or living in one of these units as a neighbor?
Well, I can tell you that where I live, I learned a year and a half ago that there was one of these homes a stone's throw away from me, and it had been there for years.
Yeah,
I didn't know it.
I got 1, 2 blocks away, and I just found that out.
The individuals living there, I don't even know who they are. They've never caused me a problem.
The number sounds frightening, but it's over the course of 30 months.
And it's call, any police calls about people with mental illness, apparently, not police calls to our
But it's
locations.
medical issues, not violent issues.
I can tell you this, if there's 241 calls, and I can't dispute that, But I can almost assure you that there was twice that number of calls to Walmart, to one building.
We have a question right here.
When they ask questions, could they please state their name? I'm talking. When they ask questions, could they please state their name?
That's up to the company. I don't care.
Oh, okay. I mean,
So again, we're here with open hearts and in good faith. We're very passionate about the people we're here to support, and we're also very passionate about keeping our community safe. We would not bring somebody into this community that we did not feel we could support and help and manage in the community. So I don't know how to say that any more plainly. There's been a lot of rumors that have gone on around the Keokuk community. When we heard about those, we made an appointment with the mayor right away, and we're here today to let you know that this is who we are, and this is what we're here to do.
I feel like a lot of the questions are based on how good will this be or how much will this be, but I think we're missing the overall question of how does that compare to if you guys weren't here? Before and after, and we're missing that big pictures. The police calls, the jobs, the care, everything else. Are you not missing the picture of, it's not a question of how good the quality is. If you guys weren't here, what would they have otherwise?
Yep.
It's before and after. It's not,
So we're going to try to get back to the questions, so can we get through these questions, and then we'll keep it open? Are you okay with that, or?
Sir?
Okay.
You asked about the locations here in town. I don't know if you can confirm or deny this, but I just have 6 homes here that maybe not yours, but these are homes we were given. It's 721 Concord Street.
Well, just so you know, we're not going to tell you if an address is, because we have to keep confidentiality for our customers, so we can't tell you whether that's an Optimae site home or not.
I have a question for you. So how do you watch them, all these violent calls, or just the people that have mental health issues?
Most of the calls are like that gentleman said, they're someone's having trouble that day, someone's hearing voices, or just having trouble with everyday life that we all have.
Okay, so we, go ahead, I'm sorry.
I can tell you, I've been on calls in doctors' homes and lawyers' homes and police officers' homes and then people with mental illnesses homes. We all have problems.
So we can confirm that at recent past, we have provide services to people at 2 sites. Well,
One's a one-person site.
Right, one's a
For I've been with the company for 12 years.
Yeah.
We had 2 that we served.
so at least 4, whether or not any of those addresses are our sites, 4 of them certainly aren't.
Okay, we're going to come back to, go ahead.
She's had her question. She's raised her hand.
My name is Don Hendricks. My son lives at 317 High Street. That is a group home. It was bought to us by Mary Jane Jackson. She bought the house for us. We've been there for over 30 years. And I'm very concerned about somebody living in a home that is not just mentally ill, just mentally retarded. There's 2 different things, and I feel real passionate. And I do think that one of the things that this county needed to do was to keep this home out of 218. I think that was a good place.
Go ahead.
Okay. What is the staffing pattern for 5 residents at the U8 or U9 level? What happens if there is only 1 staff member present and they are busy dealing with a resident? Who is supervising the other 4 residents? Again, this is really on a case-by-case basis. It's hard to answer that. We're doing assessments with people, and it depends on what their level is. So that is really difficult to answer.
That said, we do have an on-call system in every
Yes.
area of the company. And so if there's a situation in a home that requires additional staff or somebody else that, has something else going on, that we do have an on-call system that we can utilize to pull extra staff members in. Also, a lot of our folks in our homes have what we have time. Obviously, we don't want to go grocery shopping altogether, right? I mean, that's the old mantra that I don't want to go grocery shopping with my kids. I mean, I leave them at home. So oftentimes we double, triple staff coverage in a home. Now it's different, like Angie said, for every home. For every individual has a different staffing pattern, but very seldom is it actually one person there all the time.
Correct. Okay. Does it ever happen that staff no-show for work at the site homes?
Never.
And how are absences handled?
Yes, that does happen because
never.
We'll allow it.
I can tell we're starting to get punchy. We have very specific policy and procedure about when a staff member does not show up for a shift. It's very, very specific, and our staff are trained on it repeatedly. And it's basically that if I'm on shift and Angie is supposed to come and she doesn't come, I can't leave. I call my on-call supervisor, and they either find a backup or my on-call supervisor comes to the site home and is with the individuals.
And if it's a house where there's not another employee there when the other employee is supposed to be there, I guarantee you the customers are calling us and saying so-and-so didn't show up.
So if it's somebody that they don't have overnight staff and we're supposed to be there at 8, we know. Yep.
Does every resident get their own bedroom? If not, how is that decided? Yes.
Absolutely.
Every customer has their own bedroom. What will the site homes be all male, female, or co-ed? Will the residents be mixed tiers? We answered the mixed tiers, and some of them are co-ed, some of them aren't. It depends on the individuals and the assessments that we do.
And their preferences.
Yeah,
and their preferences, right.
Well, and to some extent, I mean, some people who experience mental illness and require services have been victimized quite a lot throughout their life. So that some people are comfortable living with people of the other sex in their house, and some people aren't. And that's going to,
so we move people
that kind of thing is going to
Right.
dictate the makeup of the house more so than just all one or all the other or whatever.
And we're almost done. What happens if and when a resident's tier level changes? We talked about that as well. Everybody was okay with that answer? At the city council meeting, Optimae staff indicated that medication compliance was optional. We talked about that. Is it reasonable to assume that their symptoms and behaviors will escalate and intensify without it? And how is that handled? And we talked about that. That's the end of the questions. I hope that we answered.
I would say at this point it is up to if you guys wanted to, or if you want to then stay around for
I would just say, first of all, any follow-up to any of those questions or any of the answers to those questions.
We've got one right over in the middle.
I can barely hear you.
We live directly behind the home, and I think before the evening's over, I just wanted to say that for those of you who are kind of shouting back your opinions and things, the reason for this town hall meeting that the mayor called was to alleviate some of our fears and concerns. And so I'm glad we had that opportunity. In some ways, I don't feel like those have been relieved because the answers have been pretty vague about it all and I understand that. And I guess I don't want people leaving here tonight to call us what they called us earlier as prejudice and bigoted, because I am not that. My husband and I ran a group home many years ago when they were called police officers, and then we some of our security. So I'm not leaving here tonight completely comfortable, but I am more informed, and I appreciate that, and I appreciate the mayor calling the town meeting. I just need all of you to understand that when you leave here tonight. This isn't about us against you against us. It's about what's best.
I appreciate that. I'd like to clarify one thing. The mayor didn't call the town meeting, we did.
I'm sorry.
The The mayor didn't call the town meeting, we did. When we heard that people came to the council meeting and were concerned, we reached out to the mayor and said, we would like to have a meeting, we would like to sponsor the meeting, we want to talk to people directly. So we are the reason this meeting is occurring.
At the town meeting, the mayor said he would call.
I do understand that, but we preempted
So
that.
he's the one, in my opinion, that started.
Okay, well, I would respectfully disagree with you.
Yeah.
We showed up.
I gave them a call right after
of
that
our
I
own
heard about
volition.
the
Nobody
meeting.
had to ask us to come. And I do appreciate your concerns, and we're all afraid of the unknown, and I understand this is an unknown for you. So I would just ask that you give us the opportunity to prove that we're capable of doing what we say we're doing, and that we're worthy to help these people live in your neighborhood. And we will give you our contact information if you have any concerns. We're more than happy to hear from you. Well, not happy, but I'm more than willing to hear from you. Because if I hear from you, that means something isn't going right. So that's the best. I can't alleviate the rest of your concerns, but that's the closest I can come tonight.
You want to take one more in the back?
Yeah, no, I'm,
Keep going.
Yeah, she's had her hand up.
Yes, hi. I have a sibling brother who is 52 years old, and he is a severely paranoid schizophrenic. He lives with my mother. He has had several problems, and he is now rehabilitated on medicine that helps him. And I can assure you, these people, if they are not on the proper medication, they are evaluated and by different doctors, by different professionals that will help these people be the best that they can be in their life. I do appreciate every one of you for having these discussions.